Welcome to the Retirement Made Easy podcast, a show created to be your go-to source for straightforward retirement advice. Best of all, it is presented in a language that you can understand. Are you ready for some straight talk on retirement planning without all the fluff? Well, you found the right podcast. Here's your host, certified financial planner, Greg Gonzalez.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast. I'm Greg Gonzalez. Thanks for joining me today. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about changes to IRAs and 401Ks in 2025 that you need to be aware of. And that's the thing with retirement accounts and Social Security. The rules seem to almost constantly change. And just a couple of years ago, we had some laws that came out, the Secure Act. They had a Secure Act 2.0. And so a lot of these changes that are now going into effect because of these new laws, the Secure Act 1.0 and the Secure Act 2.0, they don't actually take effect for a couple of years. And now that time has come. And I still have clients today that are maybe in their late 60s and saying, gosh, when I'm 70 and a half, I'm going to have to start taking those required minimum distributions out of my 401k or IRA. And I have to remind them, no, actually the law changed with the Secure Act 1.0 and 2.0, and that has been pushed back. And so now you've got a little more time. But keep in mind, with all these different rules and amounts that you can contribute maybe to an IRA, 401k, and who's eligible to contribute to these, the rules of the game change constantly. And even when it comes to tax planning, when President Trump was campaigning, he proposed stopping the taxation of Social Security income for those recipients. That would be a huge, huge dramatic change from what we've known for all these years. Of course, time will tell whether or not that comes to be. But if it does, that's an example of a huge opportunity and really a monumental change for retirees and the planning that they're doing today, knowing that, okay, that income in retirement will not be taxed. So we're going to go over those changes for 2025 on today's episode. If you're a new listener, I encourage you to visit our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. There's resources there you can check out. You can download for free. You can listen to all our previous episodes right there on the website. You can send in your listener questions, which we try to address on future episodes. And then for those people that are shopping for a retirement planner that want a partner that specializes in retirement planning, there's a button you can click on and fill out a form, and we'll get back with you that way. So let's get into today's episode. Every year I have clients asking, hey, am I going to be able to contribute more to my Roth IRA or IRA next year? And for those people that have Roth IRAs or IRAs, unfortunately, they are not allowing you to contribute more than you did in 2024. So the limit, if you're under 50, is still $7,000 a year. If you're over 50, there's the catch-up, which gives you an extra $1,000. So the limit is once again in 2025 is $8,000. Now that's for traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. The rules for simple IRAs, if you're not familiar what a simple IRA is, it's sort of like a mini 401k, a very simple account for companies that, generally speaking, have less than 100 employees. And those limits are actually going up. And they made this so confusing. So check with your financial planner. But basically the rules, you can contribute more money if you're going to be between the ages of 60 and 63 in 2025. They allow you to contribute an additional $5,250. Now, most people that we work with have 401Ks, it seems like. However, if you do have a simple IRA, you're listening to this, again, check into the new limits for 2025 because they are going up regardless of your age. Even if you're under 50, they're going up $500. Since 401Ks are the most common contribution that we see at my firm, backdoor Roth IRAs, those are, of course, very common too. But generally speaking, for those clients of ours that we work with that are working, 401ks are extremely popular. And the limit is going up for 2025. Now, you may remember in 2024, for all people, regardless of age, $23,000 was the limit. Now it's for 2025 will be $500 higher. So it'll be $23,500. Now you might think, okay, well, I'm over 50, so I have my catch up. So with the catch up, that's an additional $7,500 that you're able to contribute. Here's where it gets complicated or fuzzy, and I don't know why they did this, but here it is. If you will be between the ages of 60 and 63 in 2025, your 401k limit is $34,750. And that's for the people who are between the ages of 60 and 63 by the end of the calendar year 2025. The other change in 2025 is this automatic enrollment in 401ks. So if you are not enrolled in the 401k or you're not participating to your company's 401k, they will automatically enroll you as a certain percentage, and it's between 3 and 10%. And of course, you have the ability, you have the control to go in there and switch that lever off if you would like. But starting in 2025, there's this automatic enrollment that forces people to contribute to the 401k. And then for every year, if you don't go and adjust that or change that, they will bump up your contribution every year by 1%. So if they sign you up at 3%, the next year in 2026, you'll see it go up to 4%, and then 5% the following year, so on and so forth. You always have the ability to go in there and change that. You have that control. You're not forced to contribute to a 401k if you don't want to, but they're trying to have people save more for retirement because overall as a country, I think we can say that most people are underprepared for retirement versus those that are overprepared or adequately prepared. Another change is the income limit for those people to be able to contribute to a Roth IRA or get a tax deduction on a deductible traditional IRA. Those income limits are going up for 2025. So you'll want to take a look at those. We're actually working on our 2025 tax guide, which will be available on our website. You can download for free and it'll give you all those amounts. Again, we're working on that, should be available in January. But for example, if we're looking at a Roth IRA, let's look at a married filing jointly couple. In 2024, the income limit where it started to phase out how much you can contribute to a Roth IRA. Again, in 2024, it was $230,000. It's going up to $236,000 in 2025. Now, there are people that have higher income than that can still utilize a backdoor Roth IRA. And if you have questions about this, that's what your financial planner is there for. I have people, believe me, our clients are not bashful. They reach out with questions and they'll say, why is there an income limit on Roth IRAs, but there's no income limit on Roth 401Ks? And sometimes people mistakenly get this confused. They get this mixed up. You might hear someone say, oh, I make too much money to contribute to a Roth 401k at work. And that's just not how it works. There are not income limits on Roth 401ks. The rules are different from IRAs versus 401ks, which are through your employer. The next change that goes into effect in 2025 are the penalties for inherited IRAs. So let's say you inherit an IRA from mom or dad. Well, the penalty for missed RMDs used to be 50%. Now, starting in 2025, it will be 25%. And that goes into effect starting this year in 2025. And also, all the changes to IRAs, 401ks, this is it. This is for the people that inherited an IRA from someone since January 1st of 2020. And believe me, I have clients that have inherited IRAs from their brother, their sister, their aunt, their uncle, their mom, their dad, a friend. I have several clients that inherited an IRA from a lifelong friend who had passed away. So how this works is for those people that inherited an IRA prior to January 1st, 2020, the way it works is you inherit an IRA from mom or dad, let's say in 2019, you have to take annual required minimum distributions. So you've got to take out withdrawals on an annual basis based on your age, and you take those out and you pay taxes on them. and it's annual every year. That amount is based on the end of year value, basically a table that's based on your age. Well, what happened is our wonderful government said, well, we don't like that idea because people are able to stretch out this stretch IRA, is what they called it. They're able to stretch out those taxes from those RMDs out through your entire life. And we're 30 some trillion in debt right now. We need those tax dollars now. So for people that inherit an IRA from a non-spouse, we want those. And there are some restrictions and exceptions to this, but we want to force those people to pay taxes over the next 10 years. So for those of you who are listening that maybe inherited an IRA after January 1st of 2020 from someone who's a non-spouse, we were all told that this new 10-year rule went into effect. And the way it worked was you've got 10 years to take money out of that beneficiary IRA or inherited IRA and pay the taxes. And we were told, well, you can take it all out in the first year. You can take none of it out for 5 years. And then in years 6 through 10, you can start to take the money out. But by the end of the 10th year, the money's got to be out of there. You've got to pay taxes and close the account out. And then the IRS, they backpedaled and they say, well, that's not the way the law was intended. The IRS said, we made a mistake here. And they said, for those people that were inheriting IRAs from mom, dad, your aunt, your uncle, whomever, that were taking required minimum distributions when they passed away, the IRS intended for those RMDs, those required distributions, to continue throughout the 10 years. So in other words, as an example, let's say my father is 80 years old, he passes away, he was taking those required minimum distributions because he was 80. I inherit that IRA. I have to continue taking those RMDs over the next 10 years. But on top of that, by the end of the 10th year, again, you've got to deplete that account. You've got to pay taxes on the entire amount. You can't wait until the very 10th year to take it all then. So this news, starting in 2025, if you inherited an IRA from someone over the past couple of years, since January 1st of 2020, when they passed away, they were taking RMDs, then that means starting next year, you have to start taking RMDs as a continuance of those RMDs that person, the descendant, was taking. And my firm have a handful of clients who were in that situation. And starting next year in 2025, they're going to be having and forced to take these required minimum distributions, even if they weren't planning on taking any distributions for several years, when maybe they would be in a lower tax environment and it would be more favorable to them. So for anybody that, again, inherited an IRA after 2020, January 1st of 2020, you'll want to check with your financial planner, figure out what is this amount that you're going to have to take starting next year in 2025 and how it's going to impact your retirement planning and your tax planning. Now, as a side note, let's say you inherited a Roth IRA from someone, from mom or dad or anyone. Now, Roth IRAs, they don't have required minimum distributions. You can take the money out of those however you want. If you inherited after January 1st of 2020, the 10-year rule would apply still. And so if it was me and I inherited my father's, and he's still living, doing quite well, but as an example, if I inherited my father's Roth IRA, that is, I would just wait until the very end of the 10th year to take a distribution from it because I'd let the money sit in there and grow tax-free while it's in that account. So this does not apply. RMDs do not apply to inherited Roth IRAs. Now, as a side note, for the past several years, I was going to conferences with a bunch of financial planners and CPAs and tax attorneys, and we all interpreted this law differently. And there were some people saying, no, the RMDs were, all along, they were telling their clients, hey, you've got to take this. There were the majority of people saying, no, the 10-year rule works the way it's written. The way we interpret it is you've got 10 years. And the IRS finally came and said, well, kind of you're both wrong. it's only going to apply to a certain amount of people, not everybody. And therefore, they have said any penalties are null and void. They are wiped out. You don't have any penalties starting January 1st of 2025. So if in 2025 you miss a required distribution, that's when this 25% penalty would apply. But if you have inherited an IRA from mom or dad or someone and think, oh, well, gosh, I'm going to have penalties because I haven't been touching this account and taking withdrawals. No, there are no penalties. It's kind of a clean slate, and we're starting January 1st of 2025, so you're going to be just fine. But leave it to the government to write a new law like this that is open to interpretation and is convoluted and confusing. And like anything, there's always exceptions to the rule where people won't be required to take those mandatory distributions. But overall, my opinion, this was a terrible, terrible change. And in my opinion, I think a lot of people are going to forget to take these mandatory distributions in 2025 because they didn't know that the rule was changed and the IRS came out with this notice. So be careful. If you have inherited IRA, that is, check with your financial planner just to double check, maybe your tax advisor as well. I would expect more changes to come. We've got the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which will be sunsetting in the end of 2025. Whether they get extended or not, we will have to wait and see. But when those changes come, we're going to talk about them here on the podcast. So hopefully you can continue to stay updated and learn a little bit as we keep going. So I hope this episode of the Retirement Made Easy podcast has been helpful. If you have questions, visit our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. I'll see you next time. And remember, always dream big.
Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. The content in this material does not necessarily reflect the views of LPL Financial. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific situation. Your results will vary. The hypothetical rates of return used do not reflect the deduction of fees and charges inherent to investing. The opinions voiced in this material are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments might be appropriate for you, please consult your attorney, tax advisor, or financial planner prior to investing. This is a hypothetical example and is not representative of any specific investment. Your results may vary. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. All indices mentioned are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. There is no guarantee that a diversified portfolio will enhance your overall returns or outperform a non-diversified portfolio. Diversification does not protect completely against market risk. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. The SmartVestor program is a directory of financial professionals. Neither Dave Ramsey or SmartVestor are affiliates of LPL Financial or Retire Strong Financial Advisors. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Fixed and variable annuities are suitable for long-term investing, such as retirement investing. Gains from tax-deferred investments are taxed as ordinary income upon withdrawal. Guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals made prior to age 59.5 are subject to a 10% IRS penalty tax, and surrender charges may apply. Variable annuities are subject to market risk and may lose value. Riders are additional guarantee options that are available to an annuity or life insurance contract holder. While some riders are part of an existing contract, many others may carry additional fees, charges, and restrictions, and the policyholder should review their contract before purchasing. Traditional IRA account owners have considerations to make before performing a Roth IRA conversion. These primarily include income tax consequences on the converted amount in the year of conversion, withdrawal limitations from a Roth IRA, and income limitations for future contributions to a Roth IRA. In addition, if you are required to take a required minimum distribution, RMD, in the year you convert, you must do so before converting to a Roth IRA. This information is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized tax advice. We suggest that you discuss your specific tax issues with a qualified tax advisor. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the United States Social Security Administration or any government agency. Retire Strong Financial Advisors and LPL Financial are not endorsed by or affiliated with the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services or any government agency.
Thank you for listening to the show today. Check us out at our website, retirementmadeeasypodcast.com. And if you want some help from Greg, submit your questions at the bottom of the page or sign up for a 30-minute retirement coaching session with Greg. We'll see you next week.